Welcome back to Crowd Control, the show where we talk about all of the exciting things happening in crowdfunding. Today, we're going to talk about a few things that are already running, one that's launching next week, and just things that have generally caught our eye, along with another great special guest.
Yeah, the first one we're going to be talking about today is one that we've talked about on the channel before with a full preview. It's Minoi Temple. If you haven't seen that preview, definitely go check it out. Just to briefly tell you about it here, though, this is a solid medium weight Euro from a brand new publisher. They had launched this before. They are relaunching it now. It's off to a good start, but you'll definitely want to check this out. You're going to be, my biggest takeaway from this is it had a really interesting action selection. You had these cards on either side of these meeples that are on these columns. When you move from one column to the next to take your action, and the actions are going to be different on these decks of cards. And then those cards are ultimately going to go up to the top of the board and become the slabs. And this is sort of the biggest table presence takeaway. Those slabs are going to be something you're ultimately using to build up this sort of card tower. You have a slab with these pieces that support the next slab, and you're putting these cards. I mean, you can have as much as, up to like 7, I think, is when in our games. It's not a dexterity game.
It's a cool-looking game.
It is a very cool-looking game. It's got a really incredible table presence, and it's a really fun, great little Euro from a brand new publisher.
Yeah. The next one I want to talk about is called Cryptic Nature. This game, for one, is just absolutely gorgeous to look at on the table. The artwork for this game, and I don't judge a book by its cover, but the artwork is phenomenal. This is a game about hunting down cryptids, and they've put a lot of love into this theme. Now, this is not a deduction game like Cryptid was.
One of my favorites.
You are abstractly gathering clues and information to go track these down on this big world map that's spread out across the table. Each one of these cryptids is pretty cool. They have lore on each one, so you can learn a little bit about the cryptids. But the ultimate goal is to bring them back to your preserve. And this is one of those games, it's a tile placement game, and you've got those polyomino-style tiles that are magnetic, so they're actually going to stick to your player board where you want them.
I did not know that.
Which is pretty cool.
Now I'm interested. You had me at magnets.
That's true. That's all you got to say.
You know what? If you're a board game publisher out there, just throw a loose magnet in the box. It's guaranteed going to be something I want.
So you're building out. So you're building your preserve, and then you're stacking the tiles. There, each cryptid, when you bring it back to your sanctuary, has a different shaped polyomino associated with it that you have to have room for in your preserve. And of course, you're scoring points in those ways. There's an initiative track. You've got assistance with powers. There's player boards. You're unlocking things. Like there is just a ton of different mechanics layered into this game. But from what I'm seeing, we haven't played it, but it seems to be a pretty seamless, smooth integration. So
yeah.
I'm very excited to get this one to the table.
Yeah, that one hasn't hit our table. The next one, and the last one we're going to talk about before the break, our special guest, is Last Light. This one hasn't hit our table, like I said, but I have seen it in action. And in fact, if you've ever been at a convention and within even like 20 yards of Roy Cannaday, there's a good chance he asked you to play it. Yeah. Roy will not let you not play this game.
Oh, he did a really good job touring with this game and making sure that everyone got a chance to try it.
Yeah,
and it's also just gorgeous to look at.
Yeah, it did really well in the last couple years. They are back with a second edition campaign on GameFound, right?
On GameFound, yeah.
On GameFound. If you don't know the game, this promises to be a 4X game in a very, very short amount of time.
It's like maximum 2 hours.
And it's true.
Yeah.
So he makes that promise, and a lot of times people will be like, really? And then they play it. Almost everyone I've seen play this, and in fact, watching over people's shoulders, it does look like a really fun experience with a really interesting action system, and it goes really quickly. Yeah. These are not games that I'm good at, so I probably won't.
4X style games?
I'll probably never play this game and do well. But if that's your cup of tea, it's definitely something worth looking into, because this is not going to be a 4X game that takes hours and hours and hours. It's a game that takes hours and maybe an hour, another hour, maybe 90 minutes even.
Maybe 2 of those hours.
Maybe 2 of those hours, not 8 of those hours.
Yeah, it's a really cool premise. The fact that he was able to live up to that premise, and the fact that people have actually gotten the game now, have been able to play it, and have been able to confirm, yes, it does live up to what we expected, has really helped with that. So we're going to talk about one more that's actually launching this week. But before we do, we have another special guest. This is Colton, the board game officer, here to talk about what he's excited about in crowdfunding.
Hello, I am Board Game Officer, and the Kickstarter that I'm most excited for is actually already finished. It's coming out, should be coming out at the end of this year, is Rogue Angels. And if you've watched my channel at all, I've played the entire chapter 1 on my channel. Also, I did a review of reviews. Go ahead and check that out over on my channel. So I've done a lot of coverage on this game because that's how excited I am for this. Rogue Angels is actually going to be a character-driven adventure dungeon crawler-esque type game for 1 to 4 players. And as you can tell, it is sci-fi themed. It has a lot of branching paths, branching storylines. The gameplay has an essence of Oathsworn, but different enough that it doesn't feel like Oathsworn at all, right? But it's got that cooldown mechanism that you put your cards down on a track and they slowly come back to your hand. But you can only put 1 card on each slot, therefore you have to kind of plan beforehand of what you want to do later because you might not have the same spot, and so you have to wait for it to cool down. Anyways, way cool kind of puzzle to play through. The character-driven part is actually super awesome because not only do your choices as a party count, right, but your individual choices actually matter. So when it gives you an option of like, do you want to go left or do you want to go right? You have to make sure that you know who said what. You can't just like, oh yeah, let's just go left. It's like, no. What do you want to do? Because, yeah, if 2 out of 3 people pick left, you're going to go left as a party. But that one person who voted right, that is important because you'll go on and it might say, those who voted left, you do this for your personality. Those who voted right, do this. Even though you as a whole party will still go, it changes your personality of your character. Now those personality traits, I think is what they call them, but those are going to give you little tokens, which will actually be a way to upgrade your cards or make your cards a little bit more powerful throughout the game. Then another big thing, I actually have mixed feelings on this one, but is the interaction. I think it's very innovative, it's very cool. Anytime you interact with a door or a computer, you have to hack, quote unquote, hack everything. Meaning you're gonna draw out of this bag. The bag has 3 different colors that you have to try to get 3 of the same color. And once you draw 3 of that same color, that door, that computer, or anything that you're interacting with is complete and interacted with. Therefore, it's opened or you hack the computer, whatever. And there you have the game that I am most excited for this year through Kickstarter is Rogue Angels Legacy of the Burning Sun. I am Board Game Officer. Go ahead and check these out on my channel if you're interested to learn more, and I will see you later.
Thanks again, Colton, and we're going to talk about one that launches this week. Now, I do want to put a little disclaimer. I happen to actually work for this company. It's Japanime Games.
He does.
But, I mean, the game is launching this week, factually. So
we're not going to
talk
dodge
about
it
a little bit. It's Heart of Crown 2nd Edition. This is a deck building game that people have loved for a long time. And this was all in motion well before I started with the company. But they've been putting together a 2nd edition of Heart of Crown with some new cards, some new artwork, updated graphic design, basically to take this old deck builder and modernize it to what you'd consider modern standards.
Yeah, it's been around, right?
It's been around for quite some time.
Dominion-esque?
Yeah.
With a card market and everything?
Yeah, you kind of spread it. I mean, the theme is definitely different than Dominion,
Sure.
but a lot of people do compare
duchies?
it. No, but you have like your princess that you have, like the Heart of the Crown is like turning your princess into a queen and like elevating her up to that queen status, and you're doing that by drafting all these cards. So it has a very like royal look to it. A lot of the cards are like working in a palace and things like that. I have heard it's better than Dominion. I'm not saying that just because I work for the company. I'm just saying what I've heard from
company
watching.
shill right here.
Well, one thing you do when you work for companies, like to learn every single game in their catalog is tough. I just watch a lot of videos, so I repeat what a lot of people have
now
said.
He's shilling for us.
That's true. Go back and see every MVM video. But that launches this week as well. The rest of those campaigns are all still running, so you should be able to back any one of those as well.
Yeah, and we'll probably be back next week, the week after that, and hopefully we'll see some new campaigns. I know there's some coming. We're working on some.
I know. I've got a few huge ones that I'm very excited to talk about, but they're not quite ready yet. So.
Yeah, and we might touch on some ones we've mentioned before. We know Altered launched last week, and it's off to a big start, so we're really excited about that. But if you have any questions about any of the ones we talked about here, or if you knew of some campaigns that we didn't talk about, please make them in the comments below and we'll get down there and answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.
Yep.